Is that my amazing group of young people? I know it was for 1 o'clock, but I kind of wanted to get on just to get myself situated and, just get a feel of what the screen looked like. And I know it's different from, when you're recording and posting your video. So, yeah, like I said, I just wanted to, be in place at 1 o'clock and not try to fumble around at one. So, if you don't mind, um, you know, putting your name, giving the video a thumbs up, and right at about maybe, oh, there's someone else that joined. Hi, welcome to the live. How are you? Hey, hey, my friends. How you doing? Nice. How many of you are in Tyson family watching? How many of you are there? Okay, nice, nice, wonderful. All right, so do you guys have your needle and crochet thread ready? Have that on hand because we're gonna get going. All right. While you're taking a minute to respond, I wanted to start with, thank you guys for joining in. It's um been a real exciting time, just thinking about going live and thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to host this live with the youths, starting off with learning how to crochet. I just think that is a real cool skill to have. It builds on their fine motor skills and all that. And so, I've had the pleasure of meeting them and just seeing their skill and just knowing that these are entrepreneurs in, as far as what they're doing so far. So I just want to give a big shout out to the Tyson family. And as young as your children are, you know, they inspire me. And I'm just really, really grateful to have you guys in my life. You do inspire me. Yeah. Okay. All righty. I see that. But yeah, I was just saying that the Tyson family, they are a, group of young entrepreneurs and young skillful people. And it just encouraged me to be able to, this is my first live and I don't take it for granted that I am actually doing it, joining in with these young kids because yeah, they are our future. They keep us going as older folks. So it's just wonderful. But and yes, mom, you're doing a wonderful, awesome job with the kids. So I just wanted to kind of um be able to impart some of that crochet skill because I remember when I was younger there was an older person that taught me how to crochet, and then with my daughter, she's the business crochet entrepreneur. She has her business crochet with Chanel. Someone taught her. Actually, my mom taught her, and I'm sure somewhere in the mix I was helping somewhere. And so I always like the fact that we pass on skills to our younger generation. So I don't take it for granted that I'm sitting here and trying to impart, what I do know, into your young ones. And for, older people and you, mom, for the Tyson family, you may want to learn as well. So, just pick up. Hopefully, this won't be our last class or, event, we will expand and do more to where the children can learn more of that skill. So I know they were outside playing, and I hope they're all, ready to go and everything. But I think the first thing that I would want to point out when it comes on to crochet is um, just the different size of crochet thread, the different size needles. And I think that is the basic, just to start with knowing that there are different sizes of crochet threads. So like for instance, we have this one here, and see how thick that is. So for something like this, I think this is more of a knitting. So with the children, they have to kind of know the difference. So this is like this thick one would probably do better with knitting because of the needle. The crochet needle has this hook, in there. And so sometimes you'll find that the crochet needle will go through this looking like the rope, like a rope. It will go through, and probably as a beginner, you won't be, so skillful to maneuver that type of thread. So, to start, I would go with a crochet thread that doesn't have all that, what do you call it? Like it's roped, twisted with like two or three, uh, like how this looks. It's twisted like two or three of them twist binding together. I would go with something more like this. Let me come over this way, where it's just one rope looking kind of, I call it rope, but it's actually, the crochet thread with just one piece. So it's easier for the needle to go through, you know, instead of it having that two or three together, if I'm making sense. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment. So yeah, I would rather go with one um off the thread instead of having three of them mixed together. All right. So, like I said, there are different size needles from what I learned. They're different size thread, and some of the packaging for the crochet does show you the size needle to go with the particular crochet thread, if that makes sense. All right. Here is one. When you purchase the crochet thread, trying to focus the camera, you will see on the package what needle size you use. Okay. So some of them do that. Not all of them, but some of them from what I know, like this is an older one, so it doesn't really tell you or show you a diagram of the needle size. All right, but so you gotta look out for that when you're choosing your crochet thread and the needle. So the needle sizes show somewhere on the needle. So if you look in this part, the flat part here, you will see the needle size. Some of them do have them on the end of the needle. So you just got to look for it. So like this one is a 4.25 mm size needle. All right. So we just got to pay attention to that. We have different size thread, different size needles. We have threads for knitting, we have threads for crochet, we have threads for embroidery, different types. So just look out for that. See, like this one doesn't have the size on there, it's just a plain one. But I like this one because it's not a, three strand wrap. It's just one, and that's easier to use. You also have these kind, and these are more so for knitting, and this is more for like making sweaters and scarves, stuff like that. Um and it tells right there, yeah, for knitting. And it also tells you, it lets you know the needle size to use on this one. All right. So I'm gonna do a quick quiz, right? I don't know if you guys will know, but I recently learned this. So does anyone know what they call a ball of yarn or crochet thread? Or what is the crochet term for this? Put it in the comment if you know. All right. And I'm going to wait and see if anyone knows. All right. So the next thing we're going to cover is the great. All right. So the next thing we're going to cover is the types of stitch. So there are many types of stitch as far as, with the crochet and all that. But the basic ones that we're going to focus on today is the chain stitch, the slip stitch, and the single stitch. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm going to say it because I'm the host. To start any project when it comes on to crochet, you do need to know how to do your chain stitch, right? And so to start with your chain stitch, um let me get a color that we can see. I'm going to use this one because this one seems to be light. So to start with your chain, okay, you wrap it on your finger. Some people do it differently, I usually just put a knot like this. Okay? And then I have this little um, you know, where I can put my needle through the loop, right? And I tighten it. I put and some people are left-handed like my daughter, so she's got a different way of holding her needle. So for me, I use my index finger and these three finger as a guide. So I put this here as a tension, holding this between the index finger and the middle finger on my left hand. And then my right hand is holding the needle. So where that flat part is, that's where I put that kind of tension, holding my needle. Actually, the other way. So this part where the thread is attached to the skein, that's the part I'm putting between my index finger and my middle finger. And then I'm going to go under with my needle, wrap the thread over the needle, and give it some room and pull it through. So that's going to be my first chain. So this first um thing that we're doing is making a chain. And remember now, I'm not a professional, but from what I'm, you know, remembering and how I know how to do, I'm doing my best to explain. All right. So this piece here that I'm trying to use as a knot to start is going this way. I'm using my thumb to hold that. I'm using my index finger to put some tension here on this part of the thread. I'm putting my needle through and pulling it through here. Okay. So let me know if you have any success with doing that. Putting my needle under the thread, bringing it through the loop. And see, my chain is now growing. So this is the basis of your crochet project, putting it through and pulling it through. Okay, so I'm starting my chain. And here is supposed to create a knot when you first start. You know, you created a knot there so it doesn't come loose. All right. So, you know, you'll get into maybe reading patterns later on. I usually don't go by pattern. I just kind of go by, you know, whatever I want my project to be, how long, how wide, how big, and all that. Um, but like I said, this is the basis of the start. So once you can do this and maneuver with your both hands, you know, you can make your chain as long or as short as you want. Okay. So once again, see the position of my fingers. This right hand with the three fingers are kind of, you know, loose, not doing anything. Then I have my index finger and my thumb holding the flat part of the needle on the right. And then on the left, I'm holding this so it doesn't move because I need this to stay in place so I can work my fingers to pick up the loop, the thread, wrap the needle, pull it through. Okay. So it's more so these, you know, the thumb and the index finger that's doing most of the work. And these fingers are loose enough to be able to hold this thread in place. I'm holding this thread here in place with it's funny with these three fingers. All right. Let me know if anyone is, you know, getting this or I've gotten it, and then we can move on, you know, to the next. Let me know if there's something else that I need to do. But see, my chain is now growing longer. My hands are a little ashy, guys, but paint no mind. I needed some lotion, but I have to keep washing my hands today. All right, wrapping our needle and pulling through. Yes, that's expected. You know, but it's gonna come with practice. But just the, you know, the basic. And after, you know, we're done with the live, you can play this over and over and over, you know, to where, you know, it will become more in sync. Okay. But yeah, she'll probably feel frustrated because she's not getting it. But just let her know practice will become perfect. All right. But just keep on practicing. Wrap your needle one time and pull your needle through the loop. Wrap your needle. And remember, guys, drop it in the comment. I'm not going to remind you. Drop it in the comment and let me know what stitch we're doing. What stitch is it that we're doing? One of the kids answered. If they answered, put it in the comment. This is called a wrap and pull. Wrap and pull. And you can hold it, you know, your thread and your needle. However, that's right. You can hold your needle however it makes you feel comfortable because some people, like I said, hold it differently. And maybe on our next live, or if my daughter can with her left hand show how she does it, I will post it on, a video just showing how she holds her needle. So people, have a different way of holding their needle, just depending on how comfortable they are. But as far as you know, my preference, this is how I like to hold my needle. I like to hold it up. Some people hold it down like this, and I like how, my daughter does it, but um this is just how I learn, and this is what, I'm comfortable with. Okay. So the aim is to get your chain going. So however you need to hold your needle to do your chain stitch, go ahead and practice that way. Okay. If this is comfortable for you, then that's good. But you can always do different ones. All right. But for the sake of learning, we are going to move on. So from the chain stitch, let's say, I've reached my desired length in my chain. I am going to now go back this way to start creating what I'm making. So let's say I'm going to make a blanket, right? Um, Hold on one second. Let's say a blanket, or a bag or whatever the case is. Now this is a scarf that I made, and I used these different colors. Okay. So what I used was just a slip stitch on this one. Okay. So I started with the chain. Wonderful. Yep. I started off with the chain stitch as my base at the bottom. And then from the bottom, I moved up. So I moved up this way with the length. Okay. So I'm going to turn this now around. I'm going to find an opening here on the chain, put my needle through that, go under, pull it through, wrap my needle like that. So first it was a chain. Now I'm doing a slip stitch. Okay, so I'm putting my needle through the chain one part at a time, pulling it through, wrapping my needle, pull it through. Okay. Actually, I'm doing a slip stitch and a single stitch at the same time because I wanted this part to be taller right here. All right. So this is a slip stitch, putting it under through the chain, pulling it through, then wrapping my needle that way. So it's a slip stitch and a single stitch because I'm picking up one, um, I'm wrapping my thread once and pulling it through. Here, pull it through. All right, so see that's growing right there. Putting it through a part of the chain, pulling it through. That's a slip. And then wrapping the needle is a single. Okay. If I was to do it like this and pull it through all the way, that would be a slip stitch. Now, if you happen to have like a little single piece of the crochet thread, like it is right here, um, you know, you can always take your needle out, pull it back through, okay, and then restart. When you pull it back through, just make sure that you have enough of the thread to put your needle back through it. All right. So we're going to do it again without trying to pick up any extra thread on the needle. All right. So we're pulling it through, wrapping our needle and pull it through. All right. Let me know if you get that, and you may not get it all at once, but at least you're seeing, what it looks like, and you will practice, right? All right, so you're putting the needle through one of the chain, pulling it through, then wrapping the needle and pull it through. So it's a slip stitch and a single stitch. Let me know you're coming along. And you really gotta hold this. You gotta hold this piece, and keep moving your hand. So as your project grows, you're moving away from the part that's already done. Okay. Putting your needle through, picking up your thread, wrapping your needle, and pull it through. All right. So you have one loop here, putting it between your chain, pulling it through. You end up with two loops here. Wrap it one more time. You have three loops here, and then you're gonna do that last one that you picked up all the way through those two. All right. So your project here is growing. So you can keep moving and building and stacking it higher and higher and higher. Okay. Putting your needle through the chain. That's one loop. Pulling it through. That becomes two. Wrapping your needle. That becomes three. And then you're going back to one. Any questions? One loop. Put it through your chain. Pull it through. That's two loops. Wrap your needle. That's three loops. And pull it through to one. All right. Doing one more, coming to the end of that. Two, three, and pull it through. So let me know what seems to be easier for you all, the knitting or the crocheting. Because with the crochet, it's gonna take some practice, because you've got to use all your fingers pretty much to engage in holding the project in place, and you know wrapping your needle, pulling it, putting it in, wrapping it, pulling it through, and all that. Okay. So we've come to the end of, completing where the chain. You know what? I didn't think so, but I think so. No, I do think so. Who said that? Who answered to that question? All right. But when you get the hang of it, you do get the hang of it. You just never forget. All right. And okay. So let me show you this. And like I said, this is going to take some practice, guys. So when you come to the end of, okay, Kane and Mia. All right. So when you come to the end here, right, you're going to turn your garment or whatever you're making, and then you're going to go back the other way. Okay. So you're building on your project, like I said. So you're turning that, make a chain. And like I said, when you're going by your pattern will guide you as to what you need to do. But in this case here, what I'm doing is making a chain so it doesn't become too tight. It will give it some room. All right. So I'm finding where I put my needle in that chain at the top, putting it under, pull it through, wrap my needle, and pull it through. All right. But there are different patterns, like I said, that will guide you. So this is not like you know, the end all be all that you need to do. I'm just showing you my pattern that I'm doing. And what I'm doing is I'm going through the um chains at the top here. So I'm gonna choose like here, everywhere I see a chain loop is where I'm gonna put my needle. Okay, so I'm pointing that out to you. So every chain right there. So I'm putting my needle here, put it through, pick it up, wrap my needle, and pull it through. Put it through here. And yes, guys, the hook will tend to pick up on other parts of the thread. So, just gotta try to maneuver that and pull it through so it doesn't get hooked on any other part of the thread. Okay. Put it through, pull it through, wrap your needle, and pull it through. All right. Put it through, picking up your thread, wrap your needle, and pull it through. All right. But this is practice. Don't get frustrated. Um, the more you practice, the more it's going to, sink in. So just practice, get the best needle and the best thread just as far as matching needle that will match up your thread. And then of course, you have some thread that just looks less complicated than this one, because this one is more for knitting. And some people like myself would probably use this for crochet, but it's kind of more technical because of how the strands are. It's like two strands wrapped together, whereas it's strands wrapped together, but it's not as thick as this one. So you're just gonna find kind of like your favorite looking, thread and needle that you think you can work with. And once you have the basic, then it will, and you start practicing, then it will become easier for you. Yeah. Um, but yeah, any questions that you guys have, you can drop it in the comments. But like I said, today we were going to cover the chain stitch, the slip stitch, and the single stitch, and we did, all three on this one. There are more stitch like this one here that you see. It is, I think that was a double stitch or maybe triple stitch. But those are the terms that they have with crochet. They have single stitch, double stitch, triple stitch. And that only means you're wrapping your needle 2 or 3 times in order to get your design or your style. Okay, but that's how, and with this, if you notice, the frill, it looks like, frills on the side or on the edge rather. That's because I did some chains in between, right? So I did chain and then I did think a double stitch or triple stitch here and did more chains. And so the more I did that is the, more frilly it became. So that's how you ended up with that stitch on there. Okay. Um, but in the middle, we wouldn't do that because the whole thing would end up looking like this on top. All right. But um, with this that I was doing, it's pretty much what this will look like right here. All right. So just a matter of wrapping your needle, um, doing the slip stitch, then the single stitch, and then pull your needle through. Right. Okay. So what color skein are you guys using? What are your colors? And let me know if we're using red and blue. Red and blue together or red and blue separately? And then also let me know what size needles you're using. Okay. What size needles do you have? Oh, okay, okay. Um, do you think that's, let me see. Are you using a thick crochet thread? because like I said, it depends on kind of. Okay. Okay. All right. Can you see this? I think this is the looking like something that would be more favorable, like the one you have, I think. Okay. Okay. When you say no, are you seeing this size crochet thread? Can you see this? How it looks? And I'm looking, I can't I know we got this from Walmart, this skein, and it has like, different colors on there. It has little pink and light pink and gray and all that. But I think this would be a nice thread to start with. Um because even the one that I was using, that kind of has a twist to it, like maybe two threads wrapped together. So this one is a little bit thicker than this one. So I would start with this kind of thread, and on the package, like I was saying, it should tell you the size needle that you would use. But I don't think I have this, but this yarn is very easy to work with. So, bottom line is just try to use a yarn that looks more like a single strand than like a double or a triple strand, if that makes sense. So look at this project that I'm doing. Like this one, I'm wrapping my needle first, and that's excuse me, that's a single stitch in itself to start. So I'm wrapping my needle and I'm going through my stitch right here, pulling it up, and see how smoothly that goes through. It's not itching and, getting caught in the thread, you know. So this is a better, to me, better thread that you can work with. And like I said, we got this from Walmart, and that's how it looks. It has the gray, the pink, and the white. So it's not as thick and heavy, So just you'd call this more beginner friendly. Yeah. Even for me, I'm finding this easier to work with. I'm wrapping it, putting it through, pulling it through. Okay, so now I have 3 loops on my needle. Okay, putting it through. Now I have 4, pulling it through. Much easier. 2, wrapping it once, putting it through my stitch, pulling it through. All right, but like I said, a single strand of crochet thread or a single looking one, you know, is much more friendly than, yeah, than having the thick thread. All right, and try starting off with a smaller needle too. But like I said, it should tell you on the skein the size needle. All right. All right. Let me know if you need me to go over anything else before we wrap up, or if there's something else that you'd like me to cover. And then we'll talk about, you know, when we can do another live, maybe next month or so, and try to get some more young people involved. Mom, are you working on anything? Don't stop, guys. Keep on practicing. Before you know it, you're gonna have it. Because once you get it down pat, it is so easy. Once you get it down pat, it's like doing your knitting. And I know you guys have mastered your knitting, but soon enough you'll master the crochet. Once once you get it, wrap, pull through, pick it up. Once you get it, it's gonna be easy. Because it's very, like when you start, it's a very consistent type of movement with your hands, and how you maneuver the crochet thread and needle. So yeah. And it's very calming too, you know. But at first, I was looking at knitting like I'll never get it. But then when I saw you guys doing the knitting, I was like, "Oh, that looks you guys make it look so easy." And then now I'm looking at the crochet. I am saying, "Wow, I think the crochet seems to be more difficult." It looks more difficult than the knitting. But like I said, once you practice it, before you know it, there was a young lady that I was showing, and she got it in a day. And for you guys being so youthful and young and your brain is so sharp, you'll get it in no time. But this is my project I'm working on. So see how smoothly it's going? And I was where you guys were before I learned how to do this. So definitely, you know, when you get it, you get it. And then yes, you will. Just practice. Practice 15, 20 minutes. Just practice. Because it's a skill, like I said. You just gotta learn how to hold your pieces. Because it's kind of like stitching. Just imagine before sewing machine was invented, what they had to do, right? To get clothes on or whatever, to get pieces of clothing and stuff. They used to have to use needle and stuff like that. So this is kind of like, not kind of, it is an art of, you know, making garments, stitching. I call this, using your fingers, I call that the tension, because this is how you hold the thread. So on the sewing machine, they talk about tension because you can make your stitch longer or shorter or whatever the case is. So I refer to my fingers here as the tension, and then this is the needle and this is the thread. So it's just a matter of, using your hands to help guide you. And once you get that down pat, you're good to go. Yeah. Just being mindful that sometimes your needle may go through your thread and, kind of get a knot. So just stop, remove your needle, and start again. Okay. Yeah. So in my case here, my thread broke, and what I am doing is just to put a little knot to join it back. Okay, and I just snip right there with my scissors. Comment and let me know how I'm doing on my first live as an instructor. Am I doing okay? Do I have a pass to do another live? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, I just have to say this, you know, your crochet needle can get caught in between your thread, and that's just something that you got to look out for. But when that happens, like I said, just take it out. You can pull this back, if it gets caught or tangled, try to find a loop and put your needle back through it and start again. All right. Thank you. All right. Another thing that I'm going to point out before we end is you'll probably notice if you're not using a pattern, sometimes your whatever you're making will kind of look like it's getting out of shape, or it looks like for mine right now, the top stitch kind of looks like it's um kind of longer than the bottom part here. So I um I would recommend, you just pay attention to that. And then later on down when you get all creative and whatnot, you can adjust it. And that's if you're not using a pattern, right? But you can adjust it to where it doesn't look like it's warped or getting too long, or you need to use less. But if you're following a pattern, you don't have to worry about that pretty much. But just look out for that later. But yeah, mine is looking like it's kind of stretching a little bit more on top than at the bottom where it started, if you can see the difference, right? But just pay attention for that later on when you become, more savvy with your project. Yeah, but with crochet, there's more to kind of, you know, look for. With the knitting needle, it doesn't have a hook. So you don't run into those kind of things. But from what I'm seeing with the knitting, there are other things that you may run into, if you're really following a pattern, there are things that I've seen people get to the point where, they are in such array with it. They they go to someone who really knows what they're doing to get help. All right. But yeah, um if there's no other questions, I am going to say let's try to do another live. Today's what, the 28th. Let's try to do another live like next month, February sometime, maybe around the same time. Put a thumbs up if you think that will be great. And then we can work on a date for my group here. And this is a container that I made. I'm not sure. Did I give one to you, Mia? I can't remember if I gave you one. I know I gave someone at the church one of these crochet containers. So what I do is I use the empty containers, and I do have a video where I did that, showing how I use empty wipe containers after washing it out properly and all that. I make a piece of fabric from the stretchy fabric and just cover them. And I use this for my skeins. So like this long one here, I use this I put it in here because when you're using a crochet needle, doing crochet rather, your skein will roll all over the place and pick up, whatever dirt, thread, anything that's on the floor. So this is just a way that I am protecting my skein. Okay. And then if it's stuck, I just pull it out manually. But if I can get it to just reel out, by itself, even great. And when I'm done, I just use the cover and put it on. All right. So who wants this? I'm giving this away. Let me know if anyone wants it. But yeah. All right. I am going to bring it with me. So when I see you next time, you will get this. All right. I do have more. So I will give away another one on our next live. Okay. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up. If there is no other questions, um, keep on practicing. I want to see this, grow and build and just see what you guys come up with. And I know, like I said, you guys are expert at knitting, but crocheting too is another beautiful art. Yes. Another beautiful art that a lot of people are doing. And once you get the hang of it, it's gonna be beautiful. I know you guys are gonna show me all the cool stuff that you guys are doing. And I know, yeah, just practice, okay? All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And I will connect with you for our next live. I'm gonna try to have another one where more people can join in, maybe on a weekend or something like that. All right. But take care. See you. Bye.